What up, y'all? It's your friendly neighborhood Mutt-Man. I am the co-creator and artist for a comic book called Hero Blood of Patriots with my boy, Macho Dan. It's a fun story about an undead super soldier in World War III. If you'd like to know more about that, you can connect with me on Twitter at Muttman75 or Instagram at MuttmanComics. Today I'd like to talk about comics Twitter, um, and some of the negative things about it and maybe some of the positive things about it. I recently watched a video by Jason Brubaker, which I will link below, which is a pretty interesting video. It's actually the first part of a two-parter, so he hasn't completed it yet, I don't think. But his opinion on social media for artists who are trying to sell comics is that basically you don't need it. And he gives a lot of other marketing tools that are more effective and sort of more timeless. His argument, I think, and I haven't fully vetted it out yet, but his argument is that um, we're a little caught up in the flash of social media, and that the effectiveness of social media is not quite as strong as people attribute to it. And that a lot of what we hear about social media and the power of social media for marketing is from actual social media marketers who it is their full-time job. And sometimes as creators, there's just not enough time to really attribute, uh, what we want to do on what we want to create and market it. So marketing is almost like 50% or more of the total process of making a comic, and that's out of sorts. The creation of the comic should be the most important thing, and the marketing of it would need to be, even though it's an important thing, it just can't be that big of a percentage. And more so than anything, I think, is that uh, social media is an addictive thing for people, and that Twitter especially is kind of an addictive thing, and that so many people are just on Twitter all the time and talking about whatever they can to get a like or a retweet. And really, is it effective for selling comic books? So, that really made me think a lot about sort of the current state of comics Twitter and how it has become really sort of nasty, where people are arguing constantly. Big names who are having Twitter spats with each other and with political people and with, you know, blue check marks are sucking all of the air out of the room, especially when you're talking about indie comics. So it's hard for an indie comics creator to get noticed, get their artwork out there, get a fun, promo out there, get interactions going when people's timelines are filled with this juicy drama that just constantly is there. And I'm not crying about that. That's just Twitter. It is what it is, and that's kind of what I'm talking about today. Like, is it actually all that necessary? Is it that important? Now, I enjoy Twitter. It's one of my favorite social media platforms. I like the speed of it. I like the kind of interactions you can have with people. I enjoy it just like anybody else. I enjoy the drama, and I enjoy, you know, watching political people go back and forth about different things, and you know, the gotcha comments, and the jokes and all that stuff. I mean, I'm just like everybody else. I'm entertained by that. But then at the end of the day, I'm also angered by that because a lot of good stuff that I should be getting is not really coming through because Twitter sees me uh, clicking on those kinds of comments and those kinds of little spats, and so it feeds me more of that same stuff and less of the comic book artwork and storytelling elements that I came to Twitter to get. So, you know, it's just so much negative stuff coming at me that it's almost it's all that I'm seeing in my feed. So part of that is me, and part of that is just what's on Twitter that people are clicking on. Um, a tool should be what you want to make it, right? So Twitter, like for me, what I'm trying to do is change it over to be the tool that I want to make it. I don't want to be a drama generator, and I don't want to be, you know, clicking on all the drama all the time. So I'm trying to make Twitter a tool that is, you know, more fit for me for what I'm doing. Um, I think people get caught up in their sort of team mentalities. Like you can be a fan of somebody, regardless of who they are. Uh, you know, you can support them, and you can also ignore them. Like before Twitter and before social media, you didn't really know what your favorite comic book creator thought about politics or music or anything, because the only interviews you ever saw of them was in Wizard magazine, and that was all about comics. And if you went and saw them at a comic book convention, you'd just be talking to them about comics and their career in comics. You wouldn't ask them like, "Hey, what's your favorite color?" And what's happening now is that you're really getting a real life view of these people, right? And you're getting to see the things you don't like about them. So you may love, and I'm just using him as an example, so nothing against him whatsoever. You may love John Romita Jr., and I do love John Romita Jr.'s artwork. But if you got into a political discussion with John Romita Jr. and you found out something about him that you didn't like, you know, maybe his stance on the death penalty, you know, it, it makes you mad. You totally disagree with it. But does that negate the amazing comic book artist that he is? You know, like, should you not enjoy Punisher Warzone from the late 80s? You know, I mean, I just get so aggravated with people who decide that somebody's professionalism, their professional career is not valuable simply because they have a different opinion on something. You know, most of these people that, most of the actors that I like would not agree with me on politics. You know, uh, I love fun movies. You know, I like The Rock. He makes fun movies. If I were to sit down with The Rock, there'd be so many things about his personal life, his opinions, his personality that I probably wouldn't like. So I'd probably just not want to know those things and just continue to enjoy his movies. And it's the same with these creators. I mean, you know, they really let you in and you get to meet them and know them. And you're going to like some creators. You don't necessarily like their artwork. You wouldn't have ever bought their artwork. You wouldn't have ever paid for what they wrote. But because you like their politics, all of a sudden, you know, you feel like supporting them. I think that's okay too. That's a way for people to get more customers who want to support them just because they like what they're about. You know, some of my supporters are like that. They just like what I'm about, and so they support me. It's not that they are in love with my artwork or in love with my creative ability. They just support me because they like me, and that's okay. That's a good way to get people. And it's also a good way for people to see if they don't want to support you, you know. So it's a weird place we're at right now. But when it comes to like the pros and the big guys, the people who have established careers, I definitely want to judge their work by what they have done in the past, you know. I don't want to judge them based on, you know, only on their uh, opinion on the way business is done or whatever. You know, people are human. They say right things and they say wrong things. You know, you it's really difficult for a person to be on camera all the time and never get themselves into a mess. People get themselves into problems all the time. And think about your own life. You get yourself into situations you wish you weren't in. You agree to something, or you talk to the wrong person, or you make the wrong friend, and all of a sudden you are stuck in something you don't want to be a part of. You know, and these guys are in front of cameras all day. A lot of these guys are, and they're fighting with each other. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure this thing out, guys. So, um, especially when it comes to Twitter, like people are getting in trouble for what they write, and they're getting in trouble. Some people are getting in trouble for things they wrote years ago. You know, journalists go into their timeline and find crazy statements that were made, you know, in 2009 when the when they first signed up, 10 years ago, and now you know they're getting called out for it and losing gigs over it, losing work over it because of you know some reporter found something they said a long time ago. I think that's crazy. Like there's only two documents that I can think of in my opinion that have stood the test of time, uh, and I know there are more, but the two I think of are the Bible and the Constitution. Like those are amazing documents that have stood the test of time and continue to be relevant. But most of the things people say, especially if you take it out of context and put it in a new, different time frame, it's going to sound bad or wrong or you know just incorrect. And I just think we got to be more. I don't know. I think we just got to be more forgiving. You know, like that's really what it comes down to. I think you just need to like you just need to forgive people quickly for things they say and move on. If somebody annoys you with something they say, that's fine. You don't have to unfollow them or block them or mute them. I mean, if they're being abusive, obviously you got to do that. But just in general, I'm just thinking about how to sort of navigate this whole Twitter thing. I do think it's still a good tool. I love to communicate with people on it, especially DMs is a great way to communicate with people. I don't think I want to give up Twitter necessarily, but I do want to clean up my timeline and make it more positive because I do find it affecting me and affecting my work. And especially, I find that the oxygen gets pulled out of the community that I'm talking to. So, you know, anybody in Comicsgate is just all focused on these Comicsgate Civil War issues. And it's hard for me to talk to that audience because, you know, they're just worried about what the big guys are saying to each other or who's fighting with who. And it's really not, it's just not a good place right now for somebody like me to come to get noticed and to get my tweets retweeted and stay positive. So, and then in other aspects, there are, you know, you know, and other sort of like groups of independent comics and uh, just like people who are just generally into comics. That's a big, broad audience on Twitter, and they're following the same nonsense. You know, they're watching this stuff, and it looks like Image Comics 1990 or yeah 1996, where the you know everybody's kind of like having all these troubles and legal battles and you know, it's just that's what's in the news. And so it's just sucking all the oxygen out of the room. I'm getting tired of it. But I'm just choosing to stay positive. I'm going to ignore the stuff that annoys me. Uh, I'm going to um, I'm going to reward the people that are staying positive and staying true to their stories and comics. You know, I'm just gonna reward them by always liking those kinds of things and retweeting those kinds of things and doing my best to stay out of the conversations that are just going nowhere. Because one thing I've seen that I believe to my core is that Twitter is no place to argue. It's great to argue with people. I love to see long form discussion. I love to see people really, you know, hash it out over ideas and disagree in a civil way. And Twitter is no place for that. It's not a tool that's made for that. The origin of Twitter was a short form blog. So they only gave you a few characters and, you know, you put something out into the Twitter sphere that, you know, like a quote that would make somebody think about something. So it's a place to tell. It's not a place to talk. You know, it's like being in a room with somebody who doesn't really want to listen to you. They just want to tell you what they think, but they're not really listening to you. Well, that's Twitter. I mean, from its inception, that's what the tool is. So it's a good marketing tool because you tell people about your product or you tell people about your creative process. But it's not a place to have a good conversation. And that's where we've gotten to. We've got people that are trying to argue and show receipts and all this stuff. And it's just not, the tool itself is not really built for that. Um, So anyway, people can do what they want, but for me, for Hero, and I don't want to speak for Macho, but I just know we agree on a lot of this stuff. Um, for Team Hero, it's going to be about just staying positive and having fun with comics and trying to stay out of any drama. And if drama comes our way, we're going to handle it by basically ignoring it and not engaging it, because it's just, especially on Twitter, there's no sense in it. And I mean, really, I'm here to make a comic, to get better, to share my process with everybody, to find new projects and make new friends. So hopefully that's what you're in it for, and you'll support me as I try to do that. But that's all. That's all I had to say today. I just kind of wanted to get that off my chest a little bit. And I appreciate you listening. Thanks for watching, and please like, share, and subscribe. I'd love to hear what you think about these comments. What do you think? Is Twitter uh, is Twitter a great? Am I wrong? Tell me if I'm wrong. I'd love to hear somebody tell me I'm wrong, and I will have a nice, friendly discussion with you. I won't be mean or anything like that. But let me know in the comments. I try to respond to every single comment, so you know, feel free to leave whatever kind of long form comment you want. You can connect with me on Twitter at Mutt-Man 75 or on Instagram at Mutt-Man Comics, and I appreciate you listening this far. Peace.